Ardy, welcome to Race Day on Fox Sports Radio.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Doing well this morning, and a very busy week. We have the Canadian Grand Prix out there with Red Bull and Weber signing an extension. We'll talk about that for 2011. Now they got to work on their future, which is Vettel. Talk about that a little bit and what they plan on doing there, because Vettel is the guy that they're hanging that team on right now. But Weber around for one more year.
Well, around for one more year, Rob, and it may be as a world champion. Mark Webber, sitting on top of the charts. What's really interesting about that, what we ought to look at here this morning, is what these driver signings has done to the marketplace for next year. For example, just a few weeks ago, you and I were sitting here talking about Robert Kubica going to Ferrari, Kimi Räikkönen coming back into Formula One. He's been on a little hiatus, dashing through the forest in a rally car. And now all of a sudden I look at the landscape, and what has Ferrari done? They've re-signed Felipe Massa to a longer contract.
Yeah, I was surprised by that.
You got the seats at Red Bull are signed. Obviously, you got nobody going anywhere at McLaren with Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton. You probably are not going to have a change at Mercedes unless Schumacher decides he's had enough in a year and retires again, but that story hasn't been floating around. So at the end of the day, what does it mean? Well, it means that Kubica is probably staying at Renault because there's no way he's leaving. Kimi is probably still in the woods, and the simple reason is these guys don't want to come back unless it's with one of the top championship-winning teams, or in Kubica's case, leave Renault unless he's going to a championship-winning team. And it just means that we may have not much to talk about during the silly season because the top seats are all signed up under contract.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see Massa get re-signed with Ferrari. I thought that was pretty neat. Obviously, they believe in him and think he's back. There are some rumors about Michael Schumacher, whether he's going to be back or there was rumors of him doing something else, but it looks like he says he's going to stay with Mercedes. We'll have to see how that one all plays out. That may be the biggest story in the silly season once we get to that point.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if Shui makes a move, and let me tell you what I think may have gone on with Massa. I think he's got one of those contracts like Shui had that when he steps out of the cockpit, he continues on as a Ferrari ambassador. And the reason that's important, two reasons, Rob. One is South America. Massa being from South America, huge market for Ferrari, and he's a very well thought of guy down there. So it's important for Ferrari to be able to use him promotionally and do things in South America with Massa. The other very important thing is that it may leave a way for them to ease him out of the cockpit while he's still under contract. In other words, just because he's under contract to Ferrari doesn't mean that they have to pay him to race the car. And if for any reason they feel he's not performing up to a Fernando Alonso or pushing Alonso adequately, and you have a Kubica, you got somebody that's in orbit, so to speak, never say never in F1, my friend. The door could be open for somebody to come in there, and technically speaking, Massa would still be under contract, still be associated with Ferrari, maybe not in the cockpit.
We're talking to Ardy Arani, Ardy Arani's Insider's Report. It's Rob D'Amico. Race Day on Fox Sports Radio. Checking Twitter right now. I got a great one. It involves you, Ardy. Here's one from Wood Brothers 21. When the hell will Ardy join Twitter? That's what he wants to know.
Well, after all the time of you guys being referred to as Twitterly-D and Twittery-Dumb, yeah. I'm not sure you need another Twittity-Do, for me.
I tell you, we were talking, I'll have Simona Di Silvestro on for tomorrow, but I did talk to some of her people about her. She was tweeting, and some of the images that she put out there of her car was just amazing to watch, and I'm showing those now if you're watching the video cast of the program. But the car was just demolished. There's nothing left but it looks like a giant piece of charcoal, basically. It was charred, and it's kind of funny now. We talk about it, but there's a little green waste bucket next to it. And I tweeted back to her. I was like, hey, you're going to need a bigger bucket because
oh, yeah, absolutely.
That car is trashed.
Two couple of interesting things there, Rob. One is how well all the safety mechanism worked. But secondly, how unusual it is to have a fire on a car like that today. There's so many containment systems,
yeah.
And there's so much onboard extinguishing. And that car spent some time scrubbing along the wall, for the onboard system to have ignited. So I'm sure they're going to look at that and see what's up. But
now,
hey, you know what I want to say real quick here? You had a caller earlier talking about the track in College Station. And I'm sure if you're new to following racing, you've never heard of Texas World Speedway in College Station, Texas. But I got to tell you, back in the day, that was the happening place. I mean, it hosted all kinds of races. If memory serves me correctly, back in like 1973 in qualifying, I think, get your mind around this one, 1973, Mario Andretti went out there and laid a lap down of like 214 miles an hour. That stood as like a closed course record for a decade before anyone went faster. So when you talk about College Station, it's still in use today for testing, but man, what a track that was.
Yeah, back in '73, the only cars I was worried about is who was taking my Hot Wheels or my Matchbox cars.
Yeah, you were skinning your knees on the little dashboard by trying to pedal fast.
Yeah, exactly. 877-99 on Fox. It's Race Day on Fox Sports Radio. Rob D'Amico, Ardy Arani, Ardy Arani's Insider Report. All right, what else you got on today's grid?
Oh, well, let's talk about F1 a little bit. I know you want me to get you up to date there. Tires, the big story. You know, we thought Pirelli had it wrapped up to become the supplier starting in 2011.
Right.
Bridgestone having announced their intention to depart F1, and now at the 11th hour, you remember our old friends Michelin from the Indianapolis race a few years ago.
Oh, yeah, how could we forget?
And I got to tell you, tomorrow I want to talk about that because there is a story there, and it will put it in different light. But Michelin has surfaced and put an offer on the table to the FIA and Bernie Ecclestone, of course, because there are what we call commercial rights. The translation for that is money involved in this tire bid. And so now all of a sudden the decision on what tire company will be in F1 has been tabled for maybe a week or two while they sort through the Michelin offer to come back into F1. So that's an interesting story. And the Ferrari Academy, you like this one, Rob. There's hope, I think, for you. Well, maybe your son. Ferrari.
Yeah,
has
I'm not
just
sure there's
reached
much
out.
hope for me anymore at this point.
Ferrari has just signed an 11-year-old kart racer from Canada to their long-term academy contract. Can you imagine 11 years old and already wearing the red fire suit and being affiliated for Ferrari? What a thrill for some kid out there, huh?
Yeah, no doubt. 11 years old, did get signed. He was karting. That's where they pulled him from, and they put him under contract at 11 years old. Man, trading in a kart for Ferrari, not bad. I got to tell you, it is pretty cool. 877-99 on Fox. 877-996-6369. We'll light up the phones, and in the next segment, I'll take those phone calls real quick. Bernie Ecclestone coming out and saying that he might stop the signage in the garage area for the sponsors. For one reason is that it looks like somebody may own the ownership at the track and for the garages for that matter. But it looks like that since he can't get his hands in that pocket, he wants to limit the signage in the garage areas now.
Well, you hit the nail on the head because he can't get his hands in it. F1 really controls every square inch of the broadcast area. The signage you see on the telecast, everything that shows up is controlled and marketed by companies that Bernie has an affiliation with, and they're sold on a package basis. And they have a reason. I would have to side with them a little bit on this one, because when you sell a package to an advertiser, it devalues it if another company can come along and somehow weasel their way into a broadcast without paying for it. You know, you get these long-term advertisers looking at those broadcasts saying, wait a minute, why don't I do something like that?
Yeah. All right, Ardy, quickly, before we head out here, the quote of the day, what do you got for today?
Well, I want to comment in my quote about this whole insane Chevrolet news release where they chided their employees to not refer to their cars as Chevys anymore, to only use the word Chevrolet in the interests of a more consistent brand identity. And the quote of the day, you're going to love this one, comes out of that very press release. And it said, quote, "When you look at the most recognized brands in the world, such as Coke, one of the things they focus on is their branding. Hello, Chevy. Coke. It's Coca-Cola."
Yeah, exactly.